am I rowing across the Atlantic?
A lot of people do row naked because it helps with rash, but it's not something you have to do. Will we do it? I'm sure we will. Yeah, it's, you know, ultimately, if it's going to lead to looking after our bodies better and, you know, not end up getting any sorts of boils or anything like that, yeah, I'm all for it.
Hi Tom, it's Chris Belton, a very old friend of your dear father and mother. How did you cope with chafing and blistering on your hands and particularly your arse?
We've got baby wipes, we've got Sudocrem, we've got chamois cream that cyclists use, and we also have a range of different materials to sit on. I'm expecting it to be a problem at some point, and you know, really if it genuinely becomes a problem, we've got a pretty good medical kit and a lot of advice on hand if we genuinely need it. But worst comes to the worst, that person will end up stop rowing for a few days whilst they get themselves better again. Seasickness, I think, is pretty much guaranteed. We've got everything that you normally would expect, you know, all the sort of seasickness tablets and patches and all those sorts of things. The key to getting over it is sleep, hydration and sugar. So really, once the storm passes, you'll get better and you'll be all right. Hopefully, once you've been through it once, you shouldn't need to go through it again for the rest of the crossing, touch wood. I think when it comes to long expanses of open water and looking out over the horizon, I think that's one of the bits I'm most excited about. Technically, if the sea is calm and there's not a lot of wind, then really you're just going to hear the sort of blades of your oars as it goes through the water. And I think that sound, or that lack of sound, is going to be incredible as you look out over the expanse of open water and think, you know, just, it will encourage you to, your mind to sort of drift to all sorts of places. No way am I going to count my strokes per hour. I don't know. I'm not a good crier. I wouldn't be surprised for 1 second if I did. Equally, I wouldn't be very surprised if I didn't. So, I don't know. I'm going to go no. Our biggest problem from a storm, I guess, is sea state. You know, a very rough sea could roll us quite easily. So one of the things we need to be very conscious of is making sure that we are always perpendicular to a wave and making sure that it doesn't sort of attack us side on, because that's when we get ourselves into a position to be rolled. So that's our key thing and our biggest worry for it. If we do get rolled, it may well happen. I think we've both agreed that it's, there's a high chance it might. The worst that will happen is, maybe a few knocked limbs, but hopefully nothing more severe than that, and hopefully nothing too damaged in terms of equipment. It's definitely something you want to avoid, but it shouldn't be the be all and end all. It shouldn't be the biggest problem. If it's more than 15-20 knots, you're not going to be rowing into it. It's just going to be too much for you to row against. So what we'll be doing is, we'll have a big sort of power anchor out, this parachute anchor out, that will sit under the surface of the water and basically act as a brake. As the wind sort of pushes our boat backwards, it will be pulling us in the other direction, and hopefully we shouldn't lose too many miles when that happens. and we just sort of have to sit it out, wait it out. It's very bumpy, it's pretty grim. You know, you'd think it's a nice time to sort of catch up on some sleep and stuff, but it's a little bit bumpy sometimes, so we'll sort of see what we can. Sure, yeah, there'll be sharks. Whether we'll see them, I don't know. We might see them a couple of times. I doubt too often. Whales far more likely. Sharks, they tend to avoid boats a lot more than whales. I've thought about that question. I hope to never ask it, because it's the one thing that I'm playing in the back of my mind, is that I chose to do this. I chose to do it with a huge amount of support from, you know, everybody. There's a huge side of, you know, charitable side. You know, there are so many factors against getting to this point, to getting out onto the water, to being there, and it all seems pretty much now in reach. We're pretty, you know, there is no indication at the moment as to why we won't be there. So if we're out there, and inevitably I will want to ask that question, but I'm going to try pretty hard not to, because it's, you know, not a lot of people get the opportunity to do this, and if it's pretty grim for a few days, then just need to sort of bite my tongue and realise it was all choice. My stubbornness, I think. My stubbornness to think that I'm probably right most of the time, and my stubbornness to probably want to check certain things that maybe, you know, inevitably I want to make sure that things are done right and that we are always in the right. You know, we've got everything set up correctly. So I think probably my ability to not let things go and to know that we are as safe as possible is probably, so my stubbornness, probably be my best trait as well for trying to get across. So yeah, swings and roundabouts. I think my surname helps me justify thinking that spending time at sea is a good thing. Destiny, sure, yeah. I've got no baked beans, no Marmite. Probably two of the toughest things to give up, but for Marmite you need some good bread, and we don't have any of that. And for baked beans, well, that would probably be my like comfort food, but if I had it once I'd want it again, so I just sort of thought I'd knock it on the head and just wait. One will row for 2 hours whilst the other one's sleeping, and we will constantly run that system. The only caveats to that are in the morning when, you know, we run 6 AM to 8 AM and then 8 AM to 10 AM. The person going off watch at 6 AM to 8 AM will have to get up half an hour early at 7:30 and row for an hour. So they will get up half an hour early. The person who would normally go off watch at 8 AM, having done the 6 to 8, they will row for an extra half an hour. So for that hour, we will row together and have breakfast together, and sort of, you know, enforce a bit of time where we spend it together and we chat together a little bit, because otherwise there's a lot of just passing each other, going in and out of the cabin and not spending a huge amount of time together. So that we've done in the morning, and it just means that each one gives up half an hour of their rest time to sort of work that in. Hopefully there's also the competitive side, that it gives us a little bit of extra speed for that 45 minutes whilst we're rowing together as well, which is quite good. Same in the evening, from 5:30 to 6:30, the person who would normally get up at 6 o'clock has to get up half an hour early, and we'll spend an hour then, 5:30 to 6:30, and do the same thing. I think between us we're probably looking at 14,000 calories a day. It's going to be very, very tricky for the next week, because our body's going to reject eating that much, but we're instantly going to be wanting to act at that pace. And so our bodies are probably likely to start calling on reserves quicker than you'd naturally want them to as it builds up to consuming more calories. So I think over the next few days, the key thing for us is once we hit the race is to be very, very disciplined about us eating as much as we can. I did my 2 mile when I was 14.
James Parsons says, what is it that drives you to do this? Where's the desire to take on such epic, risky and physically intense tasks? What is it that informs his choices to make these leaps of human exertion? It is extreme living, and I, James Parsons, find it very interesting because as I get older, I feel more conservative and less likely to take on big challenges. You, however, seem to be upping the ante each time you do something. Why?
18 months ago it seemed more extreme than how I feel about it sat here today, which is probably a good thing given I'm only 2 days before race start. I think it's also in 2 days time or in 5 days time I will probably be back to how I felt about it 18 months ago for those first few days anyway, at least. But right now I think on the face of it, on the first thought on is it possible, can you go through that, when I was first thinking about it I thought no, I thought it was way too tough. I guess 3 years ago was the first time I ever sort of heard about it or considered it sort of as something quite that close to home, and I thought no way, not a chance would I ever do that. It just seems dangerous, it seems crazy, don't think I'd enjoy it. You know, what a waste of time. But I think it's something that over the last 18 months, I guess, to agree to do it, I thought it seemed appealing.
Why was it appealing?
To cross an ocean in a rowing boat seems pretty cool, and like it's not about the, for me it's not the thing to go and say to someone I've crossed an ocean in a rowing boat. You know, that isn't the big boost for me. I think it's the, you know, the feeling of achievement is really cool, and to know that I've done it is an amazing thing. I've sailed across the Atlantic and this is going to be so different. I love being at sea, I love being in open water, and you know, I'm sure I will jump at the chance of sailing across stretches of, you know, ocean again, but for me I think the rowing is very much, it's a one-off opportunity, and to find someone else who's keen to do it, that can do it in the same time frames, can do it the same way that you want to do it, I think that's very, very rare, and I think if you have the opportunity, I think it should be taken, and that's probably why I'm doing it. I don't think I would have gone out looking for it. I think it came and found me, and I sort of grabbed onto it and thought that's definitely what I want to do.